Welcome. I am so excited to welcome this next episode of Live with Dahr, where we have conversations with individuals in business, AI, and wellness and culture. And today I am so happy to introduce you all to the real credit queen.
Not the fake, but the real.
For real. Angela Bessard. She is a dear friend of mine and someone that has helped me immensely in the past year. And I am so excited to dive deep into what it is to have financial health, which is such an amazing and important topic, especially with what we're seeing in the economy experience in the past, let's 4 years pandemic. And it's just been a wild ride for so many.
Mm,
And I'll just share a little bit about your bio so people could get to know you a little bit.
okay.
Angela is a real credit queen. Angela has over 36 years of experience guiding people and families to financial wellness, which she calls education. She's a mother, a wife, a CEO. I love that. The coach, she's a coach with passion to help people reach their dreams and improving their financial lives. Angela is dedicated to empowering people to live their best lives. And I am so excited to discuss wellness in entrepreneurship and all of the things you do as you work with all of your clients. So thank you for being here, Angela.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Dar. I really appreciate it. And I think that although a lot of what you do or what you've done in the past is in the wellness industry, I love that you're crossing over and you're doing other things because listen, everything in life comes back to wellness, right?
And
So, what we're talking about today, as far as credit and finances, when those things in our life are not aligned, when we don't have the peace in our life when it comes to our finances, when it comes to our plans in our business or anything like that, then we are unwell.
oh, absolutely.
I love the space that I'm in because I get to help people realize that unwellness or that unrest and help to guide them. They do the work and I help them do the work, but I help to guide them to a place of peace and restoration and a new outlook on their financial prosperity. So
Wow.
that's really what I love about what I do. And I love being a part of your community and a part of this
Mhm.
podcast because I know it's going to reach people that are in the wellness industry. And it's very important not only that we take care of our bodies and we take care of our spirit, but as a part of that, we have to live in this world. And when we live in this world, there are things and tools and craziness that we have to deal with. And unless you know how to work with it and how to use that tool, it can be very frustrating and you can find yourself in a really dark place.
Yeah, absolutely. I can totally relate to that. And this is why I love working with you on my financial health. And I wanted to bring you on here. There's so many practitioners, healers, and individuals. Doesn't matter what if you're in this industry or not, this conversation is for everyone. And I want the wisdom that you share to be accessible to anyone that will listen. It's just scary to think about our credit, our financial. Have we done enough? Have we done enough savings? We've all been there. And I want to simplify this process by letting you share with us, just starting with the journey that you've been on to do this. What sparked the journey of you going into credit and financial health and for 36 years?
It really was, I believe, my destiny. I really
Mhm.
believe that this is a calling and that I answered the call. I didn't know it was a calling all those years ago because I was so young when I actually got into the business, but What happened was is I was very young when I lived on my own, and I happened to work 3 jobs because I had to take care of myself. I was very young and I had to pay my car payment and I had to pay rent and all of the things that you don't think about when you're living at home. But
Yeah.
then when you get out on your own and you're young like I was at the age of 18, I quickly realized, "Oh, you gotta buy groceries." There's things that are real life that I'm really passionate about teaching our youth about now before they get out of the home or before they get in college. One of the jobs that I had was in the banking world, and it was the subprime banking world. Subprime means that you're working with more troubled situations, people that may have troubled credit or their finances don't necessarily align with what a perfect bank package would look like. So
Yeah.
banks love that because they can charge more interest to bring these clients aboard. I started off as a receptionist in this with this particular bank and I quickly rose to being an underwriter.
Wow.
And so what I was doing, I was underwriting loans. And so we had a very competitive product, but we had a lending process where you could be a D, a C, or a B client, which meant D is you're going to get the highest interest rate,
Yeah.
and then so on and so forth. So what I started doing was I started understanding the process, understanding the program, and understanding how people got where they are and
Mm.
helping them change the narrative, the situation, and getting into our better programs. So
Wow.
I was helping them with their credit back then, even when I'll tell you, I don't want to age myself here, but back in those times, we didn't use the credit scoring system. Your credit
What
was
was
really
there before?
there was still the credit system, but you had to analyze it. So me as an underwriter, I really had to analyze that person's credit. Now an
Mhm.
algorithm or AI and all
You
these
didn't know
different
that.
intellectual tools that have been created now do those analytics and they provide that information to banks, financial institutions, etc. It's really a risk assessment profile system. But back in the day, humans did that, which was me as an underwriter. So I would help people get into our better programs. So, needless to say, I helped a ton of people. But one day, my boss, who I actually am still friends with to this day, his name is Walt, he brought me in his office and he sat me down and he said, Angela, I have to give you some really bad news. And I said, "What bad news? What do you mean?" Here I am, I'm an 18-year-old kid, and he said, "I have to let you go." And of course, the waterworks are going. I don't understand what's happening. Why are you letting me go? And he says, "You've been helping our clients get into our better programs, but you're costing the bank millions of dollars." I was helping them get from the high interest rate
Yeah.
into our lower interest rate programs. Yes.
Oh, so
That didn't work for them. No, that did not work for them. So the thing is that I got let go that day, and I had a lot of thinking to do that day that happened.
young.
I was so young, but I was always my mother will tell you I was always a very precocious child. I always had to know what was going on. And hence why when I had that job, I had to understand the why of everything so that I could put the pieces together and I could pass it along to other people. And
Yeah.
so, long story short, I realized, wow, you know what? This could be a really great business. I could consult people. I could work with different companies that have people in their pipeline that they can't close
Yeah.
because of these situations and things that are going on. So I took the same preface and the process that I was doing as an underwriter and I turned it into a business and went out to lenders and banks and financial institutions. And I sat down with them and I said, listen, if you have clients that you can't get approved, let's talk about how we can put them back in your pipeline.
Wow.
And that's how it started.
Like, where does that come from? Where does this maturity, understanding of the outreach that you did at such a young age,
What I've
how
always had
what
this
inspired you?
Honestly, I really believe that I've always had this inner drive
Mhm.
I'm not the most successful person in the world, but I do feel like I have success. I've been married for a long time. I have 3 children. I've had this business for all of these years, and being an entrepreneur is hard because you are the one that you're depending on when it comes to writing the paycheck, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you think about it, which I don't anymore, it just turns on. But
Mhm.
the thing is that it takes a certain type of spirit to get up in the morning and say, "You know what? We're gonna make this happen." Now, I say we're me, I am a big believer. I know God is amongst me at all times, and I truly believe that He is the reason that I am in this space, and I have never had to worry about my life. I am obedient to the fact, to the spirit of this is your calling, and as long as you operate in this calling every single day, abundance is at your door.
Beautiful. I love that. That is so beautiful. You're self-motivated, but that motivation is spirit guided is
Yes,
what I'm and it's spirit guided, which is so beautiful. And I think a lot of the people listening here will resonate with that because we are all very conscious of the fact that we are here for a reason. And if we're willing to see and experience life through those eyes, the experience is different.
it
And
is.
I love that you're sharing this in such detail because I actually didn't know all of it.
I
Wow.
love the word that you just used, the conscious word, right? So I think that's like a big word that a lot of people are using nowadays, right? This whole consciousness thing. And in my work, in my practice, I help people become conscious when it comes to their choices that they make about the money that is entrusted to them. I use that word entrusted because that's really what is happening. When we are given money, it is a tool. And when
Mhm.
we understand how to grow it, how to cultivate it, even when it's a little bit, some of the people that I've worked with have only had a little bit, but they knew how to take that little bit and make it a lot of bit. We live in this great country, right? We live in the United States of America. This is the place that people want to come to. And why is it that they want to come to this country? There's
Mhm.
several reasons, but the reason that I can share with you on the financial side of things is when we're talking about credit in our system, what happens, Dar, is that a bank says, you know what, Darlene, we're going to trust you. You've done pretty well with your credit. You've shown that you can pay other creditors, that you don't have anything necessarily in your past that you didn't pay. So you want to go and buy that $1 million property? No problem. We're going to go ahead and trust you and we're going to
Mhm.
give you a loan. And yeah, you're going to have to pay us some interest on that loan.
Yeah.
But cool thing about that is in other countries, they don't have that kind of trust system. If
Mhm.
you don't have the money in the bank, you're not buying a house.
Yeah.
So this
Wow.
is the place where when you learn how to use credit as a tool, the reason why I say that credit is a tool to build wealth is because when you do the research, when you read books on certain people that have used credit as a tool, that they have become multimillionaires because they have understood how to use, I'm going to use that word again.
How is it that someone uses their credit as a tool? Can you give some practical examples?
Yeah. So, some practical examples are just what I was talking about. Let's talk about buying a house, right? So, one of the American dreams is to own property. All right. And when you have really good credit, you can go to the bank and you can get a loan on a piece of property that is going to grow in value over time. So, when you own a piece of property over years, it creates equity. And then what you can do with that equity is you can pull the equity out of that particular home or that investment. You can pull the equity out of there and you can either buy another house and start to create equity there, or you can put that equity in a business. You could put it in an asset. You could take that money and you could put it into the stock market. There are
Mhm.
many different ways in which you can take money that you're accumulating because
Mhm.
you're using it as a tool and you can grow that money. There are so many different ways to grow wealth. It's not just a lot of people think the old way is I'm going to put my money in a savings account. I
Yeah.
hope all of your listeners know that is basically a coffin. If you put your money in a
Wow.
savings account, you might as well just light it on fire. Your money is doing nothing for you in a savings
Mhm.
account. You're literally making less than 1% when there are all these other opportunities. Because again, we live in the United States of America. When you start to educate yourself on the way that a dollar can grow into $100 over a
Mhm.
very short period of time, that's
Yeah.
what I'm talking about when I'm talking about credit being a tool. You've seen, I'm not going to say the person's name, but someone very famous has started many businesses and he filed bankruptcy many times. Okay.
Right. Going well. This is not
But
the route we were going. Oh, you said her.
right.
It's supposedly the richest and blah, 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 but it's all yeah, it's wild.
But the thing is that he is rich. Okay? But the thing is that the bank is, yeah, do that. Because you know why? Because on the other side of it, there's called
Right.
insurance-backed securities.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
they lose and they don't get paid, guess who pays them?
Mhm.
The insurance company or the government. So anyways, that is going
Wow.
way deep.
I
That
know
is going
we
way
just we just
we're
went.
gonna stay right here.
We
We're gonna stay
we
right
just
here.
went.
But I was saying that a lot of these self-made millionaires, okay, they didn't come from money. They learned how to use the system as a tool
Mhm.
so that they
Yeah.
could create wealth in their life. And we all have that opportunity to do. I tell this story, Dar, about a client that I had. She's many years ago, and she was from Guatemala. She came here to the States. Her husband had passed away. She had 6 children
Wow.
and her father always told her, "Go to America and invest in real estate. That is where you're gonna make money." And she worked for a large hotel chain, and she was a housekeeper. She worked her way up into a supervisor position, and then she worked her way up into a national position over housekeeping.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that they did that. Someone's gotta take care of that kind of stuff, and she did very well. But what she did was she took 50% of her income. Now, this is a woman that was a single mother
Okay.
living in the US with 6 children. Do you know what it takes to budget only using 50% of your income and putting the other 50% away?
Wow.
That takes big time discipline. But
Yeah.
she did it and she invested in her first property. And now today, her and her children, because they own a real estate investment company,
Wow.
own over 137 properties, including multi units and large shopping centers. And this is
That
a
is her
woman that
story.
came here to this country that had zilcho nothing and made something out of it. So
Wow.
she's one of those
It's
stories,
inspiring.
inspiring. And she told me, she was like, "Angela, yes, did me and my kids sometimes eat beans and rice? Absolutely, we did." And I would sit there at the table with them and I would explain to them why we're doing this. But the empowerment that she's able to give to other women, because that's her focus, is that she helps other women invest in real estate, is her story and what happened to her, losing her husband, the love of her life. She actually never got remarried, and
Wow.
all of her kids are except for one of her children is not in the business with her. he
Yeah.
decided on another
There's
path.
always
That's always fun. But he's a lawyer, so I'm sure he helps her with the
yeah.
legal
Yeah, the
side
legal
of things.
stuff. Aw,
But
that is such a great story. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah, and it's just so beautiful, and again, it just shows you how nothing's impossible for us when we really have a goal and a heart to really see something come to fruition.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that story. I think it's important for us to have those tangible stories because what we usually see and hear, it's more of the doomsday or that kind of energy around finances. I think that I've noticed even within the wellness industry when I've done events where I'm bringing educators to come to support them, and usually the finance topics or workshops are the less attended ones because people in general just have an ickiness or an uncomfortableness around the topic. But usually, when we feel that, is because it's something we need to address and we just have put it aside. What would you say is the number one mistake or thing that people do that you would want people to stop doing so they can have better financial health?
It's that consciousness. It's being conscious of the money that you're spending, especially in today's world, okay? So, all of our things are on here. Back in the old day, we had checkbooks, and every time we would spend money, we would
I'm not
have
we're not that old, in the old days. Our
thank
kids,
you
like,
the
our kids
millennials
know
out
what
there.
checkbooks are. Do you think our kids know what checkbooks are? Your kids do, but, like, other kids.
No, they don't.
Checkbooks.
They don't know what
And you
checkbooks are.
remember, like, you had to go and, like, you have your balance, and then you take, like, everything, then you
Exactly.
would deduct it until you knew exactly what you had in
Yes.
your bank account.
Yeah. And that was being more aware, being more conscious. And I think that in today's world, in our fast paced world, in our fast paced economy, everything is becoming easy, right?
Mhm.
It's easy access, it's instantaneous access, it's fast access. You got to make decisions on the dime. And when it comes to our money, we cannot make decisions on the dime. We
Yeah,
need to make very conscious cognitive decisions when it comes to how we're spending our money. So I'll tell you a little story.
yeah.
I tried using an app, which I am deathly against, just so you know. I don't like apps in terms of food apps. Okay. So
Mm,
I tried an app with a coffee store and you load your credit card on there or whatever, right? My bookkeeper comes into my office, like, she storms into my office and she's, "Oh my god, someone stole your credit card." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she's, "Someone stole your credit card because someone spent over $520 on coffee in a month." And I was like, "That was me." And
no
she was like,
way.
"How is that possible?" And I said, "You know what? This dang app." I
Yeah.
said, "All I did was I would order the coffees online, out of
Good
sight,
luck.
out of mind. You're
Yeah.
buying 15 coffees a day, and
Wow.
these coffees are what, 4 or $5? Forget about it."
No, they're $10.
Conscious, it's being conscious. I don't know who said this, but it resonated with me so much a long time ago, and I always repeat it, and it says that if we don't choose to change, chooses us.
Wow.
And so when we have a plan and we work that plan, which is a budget, and this is the reason, just so you know, Dar, when you're in a conference and people are talking about wellness or whatever, and that educational piece comes in, people's mindset is, "Ah, I don't wanna know about that because I know I'm already out of alignment. I know I'm not being disciplined in that area, and I don't want anybody to tell me that I'm not being disciplined." But my friends that are listening on this show today, I need you to sit down with yourself and look yourself in the mirror. You have so much potential and you can get to the point in your life where you can invest in yourself, you can invest in your retirement, and you can have money to do the things that you want as long as you become conscious. If you're constantly using these apps like DoorDash and Uber Eats, and you're constantly taking an Uber when you have a car, or you're doing things out of convenience instead of doing them within your budget, that's where we end up having a problem. And the other part of it, spending frivolously. Yes, you're going to the mall. Oh my God, I love those shoes. I'm just going to put them on my credit card and I'll pay it back later. No, if you're going to make a conscious decision that you're going to buy a pair of $600 boots,
Mhm.
how and when are you going to pay it back? Are you going to have a plan to pay that back in 6 months? Or are you going to allow compound interest to take root?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
now you've paid those $600 boots off in 3 years. It's not a good
Wow.
idea. So
Yeah, it doesn't
those
make
are the
sense.
things that I would say are missing in today's world is really just the consciousness. People think I'm crazy, but I have a whiteboard in my pantry.
Mhm.
And what that is that I write down and I make everyone in this house write down what they spend on a daily basis because I want them to take the practice of putting it on the board and knowing, was this worth it? Now, I know that may seem just bananas, but it actually
I'm like, I'm gonna start doing that. I'm like, let's do this. I need to do it. We all, in one way or the other, can always improve, and I think that's a great idea. And it's good. It's the visual. Right now, like you said, we're working from an unconscious, easy fix, and easy hit because that's what shopping does to us
Mhm.
when we are in that shopping or the went to the mall. It's unconscious decision making that's happening, like you said. And I think that's such an important part to this because everyone listening is a conscious being here. Whoever's come upon this content is because you have that understanding that your action are connected to your thoughts, your emotion, and how all of that is so interconnected. And as well, any historical trauma around money or a money story around your upbringing and the things you saw growing up or didn't see or had the modeling to emulate. I think my mom is such an amazing budgeter. I'm not. When you said that about the boots, I was like, and you said no, I was like, oh, no fun.
And the last
Oh,
you
no
had
fun. But that's the part where this conversation could feel no fun, but no fun really is when you are I will give my example of having a diagnosis like the one I received a year and a half ago and having bills that are unexpected, like not being prepared for the unexpected. And how could we? But thinking about things like that, like I don't I never look back and judge myself. That's not going to happen here. But I also want to recognize that my medication is $15,000 a month. I have insurance that I pay out of pocket that's really high for me to be able to do that. But these are all expenses that a year and a half ago, I didn't expect, and treatments and visits and travel and to the hospital and things that I didn't wasn't part of my budget, right? It
Mhm.
wasn't part and that these decisions really have a ripple effect. And you know what made me think about also, it's like we're talking so much about regeneration and the earth and everything that's happening on earth and clothing. And I think of like even being conscious of like how am I purchasing and what am I purchasing and can I repurpose? Even thinking about that, because that's a really beautiful way to be able to give the life of a product or something you want or purchase something you really want that has come somewhere. And so that's also being conscious, right? Being conscious of like the things you bring into your home and the filling in of things that our society is doing to try to fill up a hole or a missing piece of them to me, it's very clear when people are doing that because you can see it and we're conscious beings. And some people are just like quarters, they love it. But also, whenever I've seen things on TV or interviews, when people do that, there's always a story about something that they
Yeah.
are seeing or that happened. And then something clicked and then they became that extreme. Right. And so I say all that because I'm always going to approach this as the person that you need to help because that's really probably the majority of people. And that's why you're so busy and you're constantly working with so many clients and your roster of clients are amazing in sports, in entertainment, in media. We won't mention name. They live in Calabasas. And just, like, really, you've seen it all, and you've worked with all of the individuals because your passion is this, and I just think that for me, you changed my life, and
No.
I and you will continue to because there's so much work it's but you changed my life, and your work is about educating people in such a kind and soft way. I remember and I'll give the example. For me, after the diagnosis, I just could not look at the bills. I couldn't face it. I was so scared. I had a GoFundMe. My community had put together a certain amount of money, but of course, it's never enough when you're dealing with so much. And
Oh, yeah.
I, I live alone. I don't come from wealth. I don't have any support from my family financially. When I had to start looking at my bills and I had to start looking at the legacy of my action with my son, I really it was so important to have you on that Zoom line with me to guide me, literally to guide me and say, okay, okay, let's do this. It was very much coaching. It was very much, you're not alone in this. This is the next step you need to do, and it was literally I had never had that in my life, like, the companion, the support, the expert, the coach, the mother also, I felt very held and protected in something that feels so uncomfortable, and just I could crawl out of my skin of how uncomfortable it is. And the knowledge that you've given me in this past year has just changed my perspective of what is possible and what I can do, even under the circumstances of my past year and a half, which has, in many ways, pushed me back in many ways financially. But I feel hopeful. I do. I feel like I have you, and I have your resources. You have your
You
podcast
have a
that
great community.
I have a great community. I'm so lucky. And then that's why I love having these conversations. Like Alive with Dahr is really about having conversations with my friends that others can benefit from. And I want it
Good.
to be real and I want it to be authentic. And I want you to know the stories of the things I've experienced because these are the people that are helping me navigate all of this. And I think that having you there and knowing that there are people like yourself that are doing this work, that it's not an agency. There's so much out there that's not positive around this, and that there is actually someone out there really dedicated to healing this part of our story, of our well-being is just a godsend,
Oh,
honestly.
that's such a beautiful I love that. Thank you so much for all of those special and just such kind words. Look, I love what I do. You love what you do. And when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. That's what the saying says. And I truly believe it. And it's funny, I speak to a lot of people that are like, why don't you blow up your business where you're making millions and millions of dollars? Like you could disciple other people and blah, blah, blah. And to be honest with you, I do well, and I love where I'm at. Would I love to be higher? Absolutely. For me, when you're making an impact on
Mhm.
people's lives, that's the best feeling.
I
That's
know.
worth more than millions of dollars because you can sleep at night, number 1, and number 2,
Mhm.
you are really trailblazing and helping other people, then you're also creating that reservoir for you to be helped when you need it too. I can't tell
And
you how many clients that I've served over the years that I go back to them 10 years later or something, or 5 years later. I'm like, "Hey, I need you." And they're like, "Oh my God, yes. What do you need?" Yeah. Like currently I am talking to a plastic surgeon that was a client of mine. And I'm like, "Yeah, I think a little chin over here. We need you."
you know what? No shame. Let's just keep it real. Like yeah, just do all the things, and it's beautiful. You have a beautiful, very impactful community that you can lean on because you've built authentic and real connection, and you brought value to their lives, and they wanna bring it back to you, right? And that's the goal. You just mentioned something that you said, like, higher or being, like, a millionaire and all of that. It made me think about the future of the real credit queen, of your empire. And I wanna know what do you see in the horizon for you to give you that feeling that you are in purpose and doing your calling, yet not sacrificing that for a dollar sign, the dollar signs? What does that look like for you in the future?
Really, I have a desire because I want to make such impact and change. I wanna be an author, um,
Yes. We're gonna make
and
it happen.
yeah, exactly, and I want to be speaking to the world
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
this spirit
I
of
think
what
I have
hap
an event for you next year that I'm booking you for. Get
Amen.
ready, more booking,
Yes. Yes.
more publications, sharing your voice. I love that.
And I
Like, drink
really just want to disciple other people to change in their lives and become extremely successful with these tools that
yeah.
I have been entrusted with to pass on. I want to grow my community. I want to be an author, not just of one book, but several books. I want to come up with programs that can teach the youth about all of these things. I'm not saying I don't wanna be a millionaire, and I'm not saying that I'm not already, okay? But what I am
See a millionaire. Come on.
but what I am saying is that I don't want money to rule me.
Yeah.
I want to be a person in this world that, like so many other people that I see that do have a lot of wealth, that they give it back with purpose. Not
Mhm.
just they're giving it back to their favorite charity. No, are you a part of the process of giving it back to that charity, and what's your involvement in it? Like, that's my dream. It's not philanthropy just yet, but I want to get to the place where I do have that much abundance, where I can be philanthropic in many different areas. So I feel like that is the next chapter of my life. I have been doing this such a long time that I feel like the next 4 years are really for me to plant my feet and to trailblaze so that when I hit that 40th year of being in business, that new transition is just going to be millions of people understanding and knowing who I am, not because I'm some famous guru.
More and more of us need to have that confidence and understanding our value. So thank you for bringing it. I believe
Yes,
in what you do. I believe that your work needs to be visible, accessible. I think with the education, which I think that term and just the education piece, you are an educator, is the next phase for you because you've done the podcasting for 13 years. You've done so much work. You have such a vast client list and people that you worked with. So now it's time for people everywhere to get connected and really go deeper because a lot of these things, as we're all sharing through social and different formats, we're scratching the surface of the content. But with education and when you empower other people to get certified or learn more about the education of credit and have financial, and I say financial wellness, that just shifts everything because education is at the key of going deeper, really understanding a topic where you can master the topic.
Yeah.
So right now, I think that just feels like such between the book and this, I think this is just getting this in schools and organizations that are educating and you teaching. I think it is just it's happening. It's happened already. So I'm
Amen.
so excited for you.
I
So
totally believe that.
yes.
Absolutely. Believing
Amen.
those things that are not as though they are, because
They are. They are. I want to close out by just asking one last question. What inspires you to live boldly?
what inspires me to live boldly is getting to the finish line. Now, I know this is going to sound so odd, but I had a friend many years ago, and unfortunately, he passed away from AIDS. And this was a long time ago when people actually did pass away. I never forgot his funeral.
Mm.
When I tell you that there were thousands of people there that were impacted by his life, that is the thing that gets me up in the morning is
Wow.
how many people's lives can I touch today?
Oh,
Really, that is my soul's purpose. That is really what I live for, is to really have an impact, even if it's one person a day, one person a month, one person a year. I know that I get more opportunities than that, but if I can just take the opportunities that are gifted to me on a daily basis and make an impact, I truly am just every day inspired by that. Now, am I perfect? Absolutely not. Do I have down days? Absolutely. But one thing I have learned over the years and I have self taught is taking the emotional intelligence that I have and
mhm,
allowing the spirit to help me self correct so that I can be put back in alignment and in that position so that I can be used again.
mhm.
And that is truly the inspiration at the end of the day. That's what I am inspired by. And then the second thing, of course, is my family, my children, my
Mm.
husband. I wanna do well for them. I can't wait to have grandchildren. I hope that my
For us to
son.
be grandmas. Can you
Yes,
imagine us getting together with our grandchildren?
I know. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait, and I know my kids are gonna be so annoyed when they have grandkids because I'm gonna literally be like, "Leave them here and you go. You
Oh,
go."
grandchildren.
But I truly can't wait for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Angela. You're such an inspiration.
Did
I'm so happy that we're connected and that our communities are coming together to understand the importance of not just physical health, mental health, but financial health. And we are having the conversation, and let's do it together and share this with anybody that the listeners here, if you have anyone that you think this will be supportive. And now, can you share with us how people can be connected to you, where they can find you?
Absolutely, yeah, it's really simple. It's just my name, angelabassard.com. So you can just, look me up, and I'm also on all the social platforms. Now, on Instagram, I'm Real Credit Queen. My website, angelabassard.com, and that's Bessard, just like you see it typed out
Angela
here.
Bessard. And then another thing, you have a podcast. Can you share the name of the podcast?
Yes, the podcast is called Your Credit Today. And I talk about a lot of subjects, not just credit. I also talk about contracts, a lot of things that people don't know when they're signing contracts, when you're buying a car, when you're getting insurance. What are the things that you need to look for? I'm just your all encompassing girly out there that's trying to help you be conscious, be aware, and don't just sign anything and pay for anything.
The scary part is I hear you, and I remember when I used to like before I worked with you, I'd be like, "Oh my god, she's gonna be so," and then I get on the call and you're like, "Okay, honey, we're just gonna," you're just everybody that's listening. She's so kind and soft, but she's telling us right now to get it together. When you put time with her and you work with her, it's like literally having a therapist work with you on your credit, an
Yeah.
expert therapist coach helping you. So I hope this is inspirational, supportive to everyone that's listening. And thank you, Angela, for being here. We will continue to collaborate, create, and share. I'm inspired by you. And thank you so much for being on Alive with Dar.